Heroic tales have existed since ancient times and has been said to be at the very foundation of civilization and culture. They are the oldest expression of mankind. Heroes are the boundary crossers, agent of transformation and conquerors of domain. From the earliest tales of gods and mortals in ancient epics to modern-day narratives, the hero's journey has continuously captivated our emotions and tapped into our primal instincts and universal truths of what it means to be human. The hero archetype has served as a timeless beacon, illuminating the depths of the human psyche and echoing the eternal struggle between light and darkness. He walks the fine line between heroism and villainy, without losing his values and sense of humanity. He is the timeless root of all picaresque and is not reducible to a single entity. The best way to describe the hero is to say simply that he is the sacred rebel who cross forbidden thresholds, the divine disruptors who change the course of destinies, the luminous warriors who conquer not just physical realms, but the shadowy territories of human limitation. In their journeys, we see reflected our own potential for greatness. The hero archetype represents our deepest yearning to break invisible chains, to venture beyond the safe borders of what we know, to transform ourselves and our world through acts of courage. In the medieval times, heroes embodied the virtues of bravery, loyalty, and chivalry, which were highly valued in the medieval court. Their actions and deeds were often used to inspire and motivate others, further solidifying their status. They served as advisors to the monarch, offering insights into warfare, strategy, or even governance. This is because they embodied the virtues and values that the court sought to uphold. The hero's journey corresponds to the earliest and least developed period of life. Unlike the archetypal villain whose physical appetite dominates their behavior, the archetypal hero puts the well-being of others before his physical needs. Just like the Id and the superego. The Id, the unconscious instinctual component present at birth, the source of bodily needs and wants, emotional impulses and drive that is in constant conflict with the superego, which is the internalization of values and virtues, which helps live a morally aligned life. The hero masters the primal Id, the unconscious drives that rule villains, and aligns with the superego's moral compass. Like the alchemist who transformed base matter into gold, the hero transformed base instincts into sacred duty. He symbolized the pursuit of the impossible. The hero prompts us that life is a journey that can be taken on our own accord, and that we don't necessarily have to follow any script, that we can make our own based on our core values. We have the responsibility and freedom to do so. This figure emerges when the soul feels imprisoned, when the known world becomes a tomb. And so, the hero has to cross the threshold to enter the unknown, not out of arrogance, but necessity. The hero archetype speaks to the innate human longing for purpose, adventure, and transcendence. In myths, this is often portrayed as the crossing of forbidden lines, an act of heresy against the world as it is. Take the myth of Prometheus, the titan who stole fire from the gods to give it to mankind, to the displeasure of the gods, for mankind was not ready to use this principle in a creative, unselfish manner, and therefore was harmful to us. However, this is precisely what made us human in the first place, as fire was essential for the evolution of man. For his transgression, Zeus chained him to a rock in the Caucasus Mountains, where an eagle would come and eat his liver. The liver would then regenerate overnight so that the eagle could continue to torture Prometheus for eternity. Yet without his rebellion, humanity would have remained in darkness. Here we find a paradox. That which is necessary for the progress of the human species is also very risky, and that we must be willing to take risks in order to evolve. Prometheus is not just a thief, he is a redeemer. He suffers not because he sinned, but because he transgressed the cosmic order. He embodies the price the hero must pay to awaken the world. Likewise, in Polynesian myth, Maui, the demigod who lassos the sun to slow its flight and bring balance to the day. He pulls islands from the ocean's depths and tricks the gods for the benefit of humankind. He is the trickster hero whose irreverence reveals hidden truths. He teaches us that sometimes deception is divine, when used to expose deeper realities and liberate the soul. In dreams and folklore, this boundary crossing takes many forms. The knight who slays a dragon to save his people, the youth who enters the haunted forest to search for the healing elixir, or the shaman who journeys to the underworld. What unites them is the rupture, the severing of ties with the ordinary to answer a higher call. To walk the hero's path is to become estranged from comfort, from others, sometimes from oneself. As inscribed by Nietzsche, you must be willing to burn in your own flame. How could you rise anew if you have not first become ashes? The hero sets himself aflame, and in doing so, illuminates the darkness others fear to enter. Life has no meaning. Each of us has our meaning, and we bring it to life. It is a waste to be asking the question when you are the answer. Perhaps here is the first lesson to be learnt from the hero. Whatever happens, there is a way to overcome it. To the archetypal hero, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Carl Jung was the first to describe the hero as an archetype. And the hero, like all archetypes, is not part of a mechanical system, but a piece of life itself. Archetypes are images integrally connected to the living individual by the bridge of emotions, a universal inherited pattern of behavior, or symbol that resonates across cultures. This resonance stems from its numinous nature, a quality that captivates and stirs our emotions. However, aligning oneself too closely with these archetypes can lead to psychological imbalance, often resulting in ego inflation. This state occurs when one's sense of identity becomes disproportionately amplified, fostering delusions of grandeur, megalomania, and ultimately self-destruction. Archetypes operate on a primal level closely tied to instinct, rather than ethical or moral concerns. The role of the human ego is to temper these archetypal forces with a sense of moral responsibility. This task is crucial not only for our internal balance, but also for maintaining harmony in the external world. The hero, like all archetypes, has both negative and positive impacts, so it is crucial to balance it with its counter archetype, which is the villain. This is clearly depicted in the Christian dichotomy. Christ, who is portrayed as the full embodiment of the archetypal hero, one who sacrifices himself to save humanity. Christ had to journey to hell to become the Antichrist, which is a counterforce to his Christ self before ascending to heaven. This is why Jung warns one of the inability to integrate the whole psyche to achieve individuation. No story captures the duality of human nature more vividly than Robert Louis Stevenson's strange case of Dr. Jakkyl and Mr. Hyde. Dr. Henry Jakkyl, a respected scientist, becomes obsessed with the idea of separating the good and evil within himself. Through a potion, he transforms into Mr. Edward Hyde, a creature of pure Id, unrestrained, amoral, and violent. At first, Jakkyl revels in the freedom Hyde provides, but he soon loses control over his transformations, and Hyde begins to dominate his life. Hyde grows stronger the more Jakkyl denies him. In the end, it is not Jakyl's virtue that triumphs, but Hyde's unacknowledged power that leads to their mutual destruction. This tale is a cautionary one. Whether in myth, religion, or fiction, the message is the same. You cannot destroy the shadow, you must face it, integrate it, and learn from it. True transformation requires the courage to descend into your own personal hell, confront what you fear, and return, not as a saint, nor a monster, but as a whole being. No philosopher has written about the archetypal hero as glamorously as Joseph Campbell. Campbell was influenced by Carl Jung's analytical psychology, and his extensive work in comparative mythology and religion covers many aspects of the human experience. In his best-known work, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, published in 1949, Campbell describes the archetypal hero's journey, or monomyth, shared by the world, the hero being one who serves and sacrifices. He writes, "A hero ventures forth from the world of common day into a region of supernatural wonder. Fabulous forces are there encountered, and a decisive victory is won. The hero comes back from this mysterious adventure with the power to bestow boons on his fellow man." This journey is not just a mythological story, but deeply embedded in the human condition. It mirrors the psychological process of confronting and overcoming personal challenges. It tells the story of a person encountering a difficult life problem and their journey in resolving it through personal transformation. In The Hero with a Thousand Faces, Campbell identified that a hero's journey occurs in 3 sequential phases: separation, initiation, and the return. These are further divided into 17 substages. However, we will be using the more popular and modern adaptation by Christopher Vogler, detailed in his work The Writer's Journey, which is inspired by Campbell. The very first stage of the hero's journey is the ordinary world, referring to one's familiar life, daily routine, the stresses and joys of work, family, and social connections. A common characteristic is a growing awareness that something is not quite right, life is somehow lacking. For instance, an employee may be aware that the enjoyment of his work has been diminishing for some time, but the demands of their day-to-day or concerns about finding an alternative job lead them to an increasingly stressful situation, and so they cling to their ordinary world. The separation phase of the hero's journey begins with the second stage, the call to adventure, disrupting the comfort of the hero's ordinary world and presenting him with a quest that must be undertaken. The call can be intentional, seeking a new career, moving cities, etc., which motivates the hero to attempt and endure the process of change, or unintentional, trauma, loss, illness, disaster, etc., which leaves the hero shocked and forced to endure the process of change. The hero journey provides a template for all change, intentional and unintentional. Patients who were introduced to the hero's journey as a means of reconceptualizing their disorder as a hero quest, rather than an external stressful task, shifted their attitude from passive to active, supporting them to become the author of their own lives. This has been clinically tested in a diverse range of issues, such as anxiety, depression, trauma, addiction, and psychosis. The role of the therapist is to guide and support personal change, acting as a mentor. It allows clients to become client heroes, assisting them to recognize where they are in their own process of change, how to navigate their own treatment journey, and author their own change story. In The Lord of the Rings, Frodo's call comes when he inherits the One Ring. In Star Wars, Luke Skywalker's call arrives with Princess Leia's message. But the hero's initial reaction is often refusal, fear of the unknown, attachment to comfort, or self-doubt. Frenetic and upright, we make our lives extremely difficult by trying so hard to live a life of comfort and illusions. As Campbell notes, many are reluctant to leave their ordinary world, clinging to familiarity even as it becomes a prison. This resistance goes deeper than simple fear. It manifests as what Carl Jung called the Puer Aeternus, the eternal child archetype. The Puer represents that part of us that refuses to grow up, avoiding the difficult process of individuation by remaining in the protective shadow of parental figures, whether literal parents, societal structures, or comfortable routines. We recognize the eternal child by seeing it in others and displaying it in ourselves. Peter Pan is the most obvious embodiment, the boy who refuses to grow up and drags others into his neverland of endless adventure without responsibility. Look closer and you'll recognize the Puer in Luke Skywalker's initial refusal of his call to adventure, clinging to his aunt and uncle's farm on Tatooine. You'll see it in the 30-year-old still living with their parent, or the talented artist who never shares their work with the world, perpetually getting ready, but never taking the leap. As Merie-Louise von Franz elaborated, this archetype trades genuine growth for the illusion of freedom, mistaking endless possibility for actual progress. This forms an unconscious snags which give us a state of impoverishment in our personality and inhibit the growth of the good qualities that lie dormant in our psyche, making our shadow blacker and denser. We lose control of our life and become puppets of existence. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca writes, fate leads the willing and drags along the reluctant. It is as if one keeps living but is dragged by chains or swimming against the river currents. This is a characteristic attitude of the neurotic, an artificial barrier invented by oneself which causes one to suffer from internal conflict in order to avoid facing difficult life choices. Campbell tells us that heroic myths provide the individual with inspiration for aspiration. Myths have the ability to link the everyday to the eternal, to give meaning to the mundane. The call to adventure, however frightening, offers a way out of psychological impasse. Through trials that force them to engage with reality and ultimately surrendering their illusions. In the ancient Indian mythology, Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama lived a lavish life in a protected palace, shielded from death, disease, and suffering. But when he finally left the gates and saw the world's pain, his soul was pierced. That moment was his call. To stay would be to live a lie. And so he walked into the forest, which represents the unknown, the painful, and the psychological struggle the hero must face in his journey. The call to adventure often comes in disguise. Sometimes it is loss, the death of a parent, the end of a relationship, the collapse of a dream. Other times, it's a growing sense of numbness, a spiritual dryness that no pleasure can satisfy. It is as if the gods have withdrawn their blessing from the life you are living. This is not punishment. It is invitation, and refusing the call leads to stagnation. One finds himself with little or no motivation, highlighting the ineffectiveness of one's coping strategies. This unfamiliar situation causes stress as one is unable to deal with the life problem. At this crucial turning point, the hero desperately needs guidance, leading to the fourth stage, meeting the mentor. The mentor is the archetypal wise old man. And, in many of the hero myths, the weakness of the hero is balanced by the appearance of this strong tutelary figures. A central hero of Greek mythology is Achilles, the greatest of all the Greek warriors. As a boy, he was guided by the wise centaur Chiron, tutor of gods and heroes, who instructed him in the arts of medicine, music, riding, and hunting. These godlike figures are in fact symbolic representatives of the whole psyche, the larger and more comprehensive identity that supplies the strength that the personal ego lacks. Their special role suggests that the essential function of the heroic myth is the development of the individual's ego consciousness, his awareness of his own strengths and weaknesses, in a manner that will equip him for the arduous tasks with which life confronts him. A wise figure who provides guidance, training, or confidence. These tutelary figures do not necessarily have to be physical ones. They can also be your favorite philosopher, public figure, family member, or any other person you look up to as your ideal self. The mentor helps the hero realize that change is necessary, pushing them from inaction to action. This causes separation from the ordinary world. The separation phase of the hero's journey culminates in crossing the first threshold, where the hero leaves the ordinary world and enters the special world, a realm of challenges, trials, and transformation. This marks the beginning of the initiation phase, where the hero confronts their deepest fears and begins their true transformation. Once the hero crosses into the unknown, they face a series of escalating trials that test their physical, mental, and emotional resilience. These trials are not just external obstacles, but symbolic representations of the hero's inner struggles. In The Hero with a Thousand Faces, Campbell explains that these challenges force the hero to hone their skills, confront their weaknesses, and grow beyond their former self. A crucial psychological aspect of this phase is the confrontation with the shadow, a concept introduced by Carl Jung. The shadow represents the repressed, unconscious aspects of the psyche, fears, desires, and traits deemed unacceptable. The hero must integrate these darker elements to achieve wholeness. This is where one confronts his dragon, his worst fear, event, person, situation, or memory long avoided. As trials become more difficult, the hero hones his skills and gains experience. For example, Odysseus's hubris in the Odyssey leads to his suffering, forcing him to confront his arrogance. Similarly, Gilgamesh's fear of mortality drives his quest for immortality, only to realize that true meaning lies in accepting life's impermanence. For Hercules, the threshold is not crossed willingly. It is forced upon him by madness. Driven insane by the goddess Hera, Hercules slaughters his own wife and children in a fit of uncontrollable rage. When he awakens and sees what he's done, the weight of the act shatters his sense of self. This is not just a crime, it is a symbolic death. His old identity dies with them. He is no longer the champion, no longer the son of Zeus. He is a broken man. This moment marks his fall from the ordinary world into the realm of chaos, and it is precisely through this descent that the path of redemption opens. He is sentenced to perform 12 labors, each one seemingly impossible. But these aren't mere feats of strength. They are archetypal trials, mirrors held up to his unconscious mind. Each labor is a confrontation with a different facet of his inner darkness, his shadow. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The labors of Hercules are exactly this, the gradual illumination of darkness. Consider the second labor where he fought the Lernaean Hydra. a serpent with many heads. Each time Hercules cuts off one head, two more grow in its place. This is not just a monster, it is a psychological truth. The Hydra represents the repressed contents of the unconscious, those emotions, desires, and impulses we bury, deny, or are ashamed to acknowledge. The more we try to eliminate them forcefully, the more they multiply. Like the Hydra, the shadow cannot be slain, it must be understood, contained, integrated. And Hercules learns this. Instead of hacking away blindly, he cauterizes each neck after decapitation, symbolizing a conscious confrontation, a deliberate integration. He doesn't kill the shadow, he transforms it. This is the essence of Jung's shadow work. The goal is not to destroy the parts of ourselves we hate or fear, but to recognize them as ours, to bind them to our higher purpose. The Hydra's heads only stop multiplying when Hercules brings fire, the light of consciousness, to the wound. Another revealing labor is the cleaning of the Augean stables, a filthy, degrading task unworthy of a demigod. But that is exactly the point. The ego resists humility. It wants glory, not grime. But the hero's journey requires self-abasement, a willingness to get one's hands dirty, not just in the world, but in one's psyche, to confront the filth within. The word human is from the Latin humus, which means earth. To be a human is to be down to earth and grounded in earthly experience, which contain rich source of nutrients that heals us. By rerouting rivers to wash the stables clean, Hercules uses the forces of nature itself, a symbol of redirecting the flow of psychic energy, of channeling unconscious material into conscious transformation. Jung tells us that the path to individuation is not ascension, but descent. Not a journey into light, but through shadow. However, as the trials increase in complexity, the demands placed on the hero lead to higher levels of anxiety, and his first confrontation with the dragon or the shadow is likely to fail. Without help, he may consider giving up. The trials phase, tests, allies, and enemies, involves the hero navigating the special world, seeking allies, and battling adversaries. Allies, friends, mentors, or even inner strengths support the hero's growth and decrease the hero's isolation, while enemies embody the forces of resistance. Ironically, vulnerability becomes a key skill in resiliency rather than a sign of weakness. The hero learns to ask for help, a lesson in humility and resilience. The hero then enters the seventh stage, which is the approach to the innermost cave, where one must make his final preparations before descending into the unknown. The climax of the initiation phase is the supreme ordeal, the hero's greatest challenge. This is the moment when all seems lost, and the hero faces their worst fear, often symbolizing a psychological death and rebirth. In The Lord of the Rings, Frodo's confrontation with Gollum and the ring at Mount Doom represents this ordeal. In Star Wars, Luke's battle with Darth Vader and the Emperor tests his faith in the light side of the Force. In this stage, many feel like they are back at square one. Fortunately, allies have witnessed this major setback and are present to assist the hero. Over a period of time, the repeated confrontation with the dragon leads to the growing realization that what was once believed to be impossible is now possible. After facing the unknown and defeating the dragon, the hero experiences a psychological rebirth, the death of an old aspect of oneself and the birth of a new and more capable self. The hero gains insights receiving this as his reward. This rebirth is not just a victory over external foes, but an internal triumph, the integration of the shadow and the realization of latent potential. After the supreme ordeal, the hero enters the return phase, where they must bring their newfound wisdom back to the ordinary world. This begins with the road back, where the hero faces final challenges, often more intense than before. The journey home is fraught with temptation, doubt, and remnants of the shadow. You will be confronted with more enemies and dragons, and most of you Aeles may have been lost during the supreme ordeal, which make things more tougher. However, the hero knows that there's no way back and is motivated to keep going. The resurrection marks a second psychological death and rebirth. The hero is purified, having faced their darkest fears, and now embodies a higher state of consciousness. The weary hero experiences a resurrection with the attributes of his ordinary self, in addition to the new insights from the journey and characters he has met along the road of life. He moves from dependence to responsibility, from silence to finding his voice. The hero has increased resilience and has learned how to regulate fear, sadness, and other emotions that arise when taking action. In The Lion King, Simba's return to Pride Rock and confrontation with Scar symbolize this resurrection. He reclaims his identity, not as a guilt-ridden exile, but as a rightful king. The final stage is the return with the elixir, the hero's ultimate reward. It is something for the hero to share with others, or something with the power to heal. The elixir can be wisdom, love, or simply the experience of surviving the special world. Frodo returns to the Shire with the wisdom of sacrifice. Luke Skywalker restores balance to the galaxy. The hero comes back to his ordinary world with a new self, having faced terrible dangers and possibly death, but now looks forward to the start of a new life. This is not just a one-time linear path, but in fact a lifelong cyclical process. As Campbell says, over and over again, you are called to the realm of adventure. Each time there's the same problem: do I dare? And then if you do dare, the dangers are there, and the help also, and the fulfillment or the fiasco. This awareness to see life as a hero's journey allows the chaos and challenges of life to have both some sequence and purpose. It gives us a beautiful framework for dealing with life's problems. An unwanted event can be viewed as a call to adventure, difficult life events as confronting one's dragon. When one completes these, one receives a reward, transforming into a new self, with an elixir to share the experience of one's special world with others. This framework applies beyond myth. The journey offers a blueprint for resilience, whether facing addiction, trauma, or depression. Not all who embark on the hero's journey succeed. Some fail to integrate their shadow, becoming anti-heroes, flawed figures driven by selfishness, aggression, or moral ambiguity. Anti-heroes like Walter White, Breaking Bad, or Tony Soprano, The Sopranos, embody Jung's shadow unchecked. Their stories explore the consequences of unintegrated darkness, self-destruction, isolation, and moral decay. Anti-heroes often reject societal norms, reflecting a rebellion against external and internal constraints. Tyler Durden personifies the protagonist's repressed shadow, leading to chaos. These characters highlight the dangers of refusing the call to growth. Yet anti-heroes also fascinate because they mirror our own struggles with morality and identity. Their potential for redemption, like Darth Vader's final act, suggests that even the fallen can reclaim heroism. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow lamented the decline of true heroism in modern times. Today, fame is bestowed on celebrities and politicians, not heroes. Society often tears down real heroes, fixating on their flaws rather than their virtues. Ernest Becker warned that this envy-driven cynicism stifles the heroic impulse, a drive essential for psychological health. True heroism, as Andrew Bernstein notes, is living in service of values that advance life: justice, freedom, knowledge. Heroes like Socrates, Frederick Douglass, or Nikola Tesla exemplify this. They were not self-sacrificing martyrs, but individuals whose pursuit of greatness benefited humanity. The modern world, however, prioritizes distraction over meaning. To reclaim heroism, we must reject conformity and embrace moral autonomy. Arthur Schopenhauer advised, "The first rule of heroism is to stand alone." Not all heroes shape history. Bernstein introduces the Demi Hero, the everyday individual who commits to values within their sphere. A teacher inspiring students, a parent nurturing resilience, or an activist fighting injustice, all embody demi-heroism. Hero worship, studying past heroes, fuels this journey. By reflecting on their struggles, we gain strength for our own. As Nietzsche wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." The hero's journey is a lifelong process. Campbell reminds us, the quest is to find the inward thing you basically are. To follow one's bliss is not hedonism, but aligning with a deeper purpose. Heroism is not about perfection, but perseverance. In a world slipping into chaos, the choice to live heroically, despite fear, doubt, and societal resistance, is the ultimate act of defiance. As Joseph Campbell urged, follow your bliss, and doors will open where you didn't know they were going to be. If you do follow your bliss, you put yourself on a kind of track that has been there all the while, waiting for you, and the life you ought to be living is the one you are living. When you can see that, you begin to meet people who are in your field of bliss, and they open doors to you. I say, follow your bliss and don't be afraid, and doors will open where you didn't know they were going to be. To follow one's bliss is not simply doing what one likes to do, and certainly not what one is simply told. It is to search deeply within oneself and identifying that pursuit or burning need which one is truly passionate about, giving oneself absolutely to it, and the rest will follow. People say that what we're all seeking is a meaning for life. I don't think that's what we're really seeking. I think that what we're seeking is an experience of being alive, so that our life experiences on the purely physical plane will have resonances with our innermost being and reality, so that we actually feel the rapture of being alive. This feeling of rapture or bliss is associated to the hero's journey that we face on a daily basis in this life, he writes. The experience of eternity, right here and now, is the function of life. Eternity isn't some later time. Eternity isn't even a long time. Eternity has nothing to do with time. Eternity is that dimension of the here and now that all thinking in temporal terms cuts off. The experience of eternity right here and now in all things, whether thought of as good or as evil. Heaven is not the place to have the experience. Here is the place to have the experience. When you realize that eternity is right here now, that it is within your possibility to experience the eternity of your own truth and being, then you grasp the following. That which you are was never born and will never die.